Okay, here's the review script, focusing only on the narrative and skipping all of the other items. We are introduced to Christoph, the creator, who tells us that we're tired of phony emotions from actors and prefer to watch something real. Truman. We get a glimpse into Truman's life, a simple man who wakes up and looks in the mirror. As we are introduced to a few of the characters, it becomes apparent that life isn't quite right in the utopia that is Sea Haven. His wife, Meryl, explains that for her, there's no difference between her private life and public life. It's a lifestyle and a noble one. There's also Marlon, Truman's best friend, who explains that everything about the show is true. It's all real, it's just controlled. We see Truman on the street, being his usual, happy self, until he has a sudden moment of doubt and sees a lamp falling from the sky. He is clearly confused, but when he arrives at work and hears on the radio about what he saw, he starts to suspect that something isn't right. He makes a request for Fiji, where his long-lost love is. But there is nothing to find. He also attempts to see more information about his best friend and nothing comes up. We also see Truman at home, his memories of his childhood, and then he is out on the water where a storm rolls in and capsizes his boat. Truman, almost drowning, grabs his son and his son's arm, but when he gets back to shore, his son is not with him. Truman begins to understand that the truth might be closer than he realizes. The show is controlled, nothing is real, and he cannot continue this life. While he's on his way to work, he gets out of his car and gets confronted by other people in his life, including his wife, his childhood best friend, Marlon, and even a homeless person, all of whom confront him, trying to get him to stay on the track he is expected to. We then see him in a library, going into a secluded section to look through books and realizing he can make out the face of the woman who lives in Fiji. Then he remembers a red sweater and a pin and how it fits into his memories, and in turn, he realizes that he isn't real. Then we see Truman escaping from his world, but he is being caught by his friends, who are obviously actors, and taken to work. We see, now knowing how to act, Truman attempts to find Sylvia, the love of his life. But when she's discovered, the film begins to focus back on him as he has become aware of the world he lives in is a fake. He is driven by his desire to see this love interest from the past and has become willing to do anything to get out of the box he lives in. Truman is now aware that he isn't a real person and makes a break to see where the path he's been on has led him, to the end of the world. The episode opens in the usually idyllic town square where Truman's actions are clearly starting to deviate from the norm. He's running in a panic, dodging other citizens, and looks quite distressed, which causes Marlon to check up on him at the market while loading up a vending machine. Truman confesses something is wrong. The elevator people had no backs on their clothes. The radio is seemingly following him and talking about everything that he is doing. Marlon dismisses it as a fantasy, and the two are interrupted. Then, Truman and Marlon sit by a body of water to reflect. Truman expresses something that has been on his mind, that everything in his life feels like it's been building up to something important, which Marlon doesn't relate to. He asks where Marlon ever went off the island, and Marlon responds saying, "All over." The conversation changes to what a great view that they have, where Truman declares that he is going away for a while. The scene flashes to pictures of Truman's childhood, and then his mom mentions that maybe she'll get a grandchild, which seems to alarm Truman. Truman takes off again and runs to the town's bus, and Marlon follows after him. When a phone rings, Marlon's mom is on the other end, and after a short conversation, he goes back to the bus. While walking, Truman begins questioning the nurse, Angela, about his situation. He then gets her to drive him out of town at high speed with a plan to test something. When he gets to the end, he declares that he is going away for a while, which concerns Angela. They are forced to pull over, and the cops get involved because they've detected a breach. Suddenly, she's not on board with him anymore and has to go because she has surgery to attend to. He's taken back home, where he looks at his old photo album and reminisces about his past. He leaves his house, rides his bike past his neighbor, and heads toward the hospital, where it is said that there has been a leak at the plant that causes Marlon to start cleaning his nose after having a bad reaction to the leak. Angela asks Truman if he is okay, and he says that he thinks that the people on the elevator were a little off and that they have no backs on their clothes, and she says that he just needs to get back home and relax, but Truman has a different plan. He tells Marlon that he's going away for a while and that they can't keep him in once he becomes unpredictable and knocks out the vending machine. They are pulled away, and Marlene leaves as she says that she is late for her surgery. We see shots of the different camera angles of the movie and how his life is viewed. Then we are taken to a scene of an interview between the show's host and the show's creator, Christoph. He talks about the revenue and the fact that many people tuned in for his birth. Also, he talks about how many people tuned in for his first steps. He says that they have attempted to keep Truman safe from the outside world. It's clear that Truman is being watched at all times and is essentially the prisoner of this show. Meryl, his wife, calls him while he is in his kitchen and tells him that he is acting crazy and that he needs to go home. Truman begins to figure out that there are inconsistencies. The episode ends with Truman racing out and away from home, with his wife trying to stop him and getting a ride from a stranger, but it seems that he is doomed to be watched until the very end. The show's creator says, "I would gladly walk in front of traffic for you, and what is it that you're struggling with, Truman? Thanks for tuning in. Stay curious, stay awesome, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more amazing content."